back in 2017, 2018. I was embarking on my journey as a spiritual mentor, and I had hit the top. I'd hit a level I couldn't get past on my own. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling afraid. I had imposter syndrome. I was afraid I was doing real damage to this group that I was leading. I couldn't fully open up. I felt like I was hiding all the time. And I felt like it was very uncomfortable. I ended up in a therapy session I wasn't supposed to be at. My partner at the time had scheduled a session with his therapist and he couldn't go. And he said, Ingrid, you go in my place. And I went, weird. Okay. And I just went. And I figured maybe it'd be helpful because I was feeling pretty rough at that point. I was feeling pretty worthless. Like I did not have what it took to do this work that I had been called to do. And really the only work I was willing to do. And yet I was stuck. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it done. So I'm sitting in this therapist's office, and he said, "What do you hear? What do you want to talk about?" And I don't think he said anything for the rest of the session. Started talking about the issues that I was having with my community and how I was so blocked and so afraid and so stuck and not knowing how to be open and vulnerable and teach these people what I knew I had it in me to teach, what I could bring through for them. I started to feel these sensations in my body like I'd never felt them before. And slowly, slowly, I was guided by spirit through this practice of what I now call soulmatic renewal. And this therapist just kind of sat back and watched. I went through these layers of emotions. And when I got to the other side, I got to the bottom of it, it was gone. It was like this empty feeling. Any story I had around my own ineffectiveness, any feelings of fear and unworthiness that had been just plaguing me for weeks at that point, I just felt empty and gone. And I wasn't crying anymore. I was just back and I was like, I feel better. And he said, okay. So then I left. And over the next few days, I watched for those feelings of inadequacy and those feelings of fear, and they were not there. I was open and vulnerable with my students. They started lighting up in a way that I hadn't seen them do it before. They started leveling up to meet their potential in a way that I had not been able to bring them through to do that. So what I'd done is I had hit this roadblock inside of my body that was preventing me from doing the work that I was called to do. Just because I was called to do it didn't mean I was capable of doing it. I had to remove the stuck energy in my body that was preventing me from showing up fully, authentically, and vulnerably for the work that I was meant to do. And there's work that you're meant to do as well. And you are not doing it because of the stuck energy in your body. Let me explain. We do a lot of mindset work, right? We're trying to figure out why we are the way we are. We're trying to do our affirmations, we're doing our journaling, we're doing our meditating, we're in talk therapy, all of that in the mind, in the story. When we hit the ceiling, but we don't know what to do once we get there. See, emotion is energy in motion. And when that emotion, that energy is interrupted at any point in our life, in our childhood, any experience, that emotion halts and hides itself in the body, waiting for us to return to it so we can have the full experience of that emotion. And then once we do, it dislodges from the body and it carries on its way. The first law of physics, energy never dies, it is only transformed. The same thing is true of our emotional experiences. And none of us are taught how to feel our feelings. None of us. And so what do we do when we come up with these intense emotional experiences, these traumatic moments, the squashing of our authenticity? We stuff it, we push it away, we hurl it outside of us, we run from it, we do whatever we know how to do to just figure out how to get through that moment. But we're just getting through the moment without being in the moment completely. And this creates layers and layers and layers of stuck energy and stuck emotions. And when we can stop, when we can interrupt the story, put it aside and go deeply into our physical and our emotional experience, then what happens is these layers of emotions, they move through very quickly, because when you are sitting with an emotion without the story, without the narrative, it just wants to be felt. And that only takes a few minutes. And so you feel it and you feel it and you feel it and you move it on through. And then boom, your block is gone, your fear is gone. And suddenly you're able to show up in a way that you've never showed up before, in a way that you know you're capable of. But you're not capable when you're carrying around old emotions or other people's emotions, other people's stories, other people's shit inside your body. You can get rid of the conditioning and the trauma and the stored energy and emotions from decades of your lifetime in a matter of a few years. Ask me how I know. I did it, and I have led hundreds of students through it and themselves. My students have gone on to be spiritual leaders themselves, to start businesses, to manifest big money, to pay off their debts, to reboot their life, to marry the person of their dreams, attracting their soulmate, all because you're moving the stuck energy out of the body. You are meant to experience what you desire because your desire is how you are meant to be of divine service through the vehicle of your passion. And what stops us is old shit. Now, you don't have to know what it is. You don't have to know who done it, who made you feel that way. That's irrelevant. That's just another story. See, the story is where we get stuck because it's our mental understanding of what happened. And newsflash, it's usually not entirely accurate, but there's a little piece of it that's accurate, and our ego wants to hang on to it because when you're in the story, you're not in your body, you're not in your emotions. And because we were so scared of that original experience, our ego is convinced that if we go back there, we're going to die. So it keeps us intellectualizing the story, keeps us intellectualizing our feelings in the story, in the narrative. When we can disconnect from that and use the body as the bridge to go into your emotional experience and let yourself fucking have it, that is when you are free, my friend. That is when you can become the greatest version of yourself, the person you know you are capable of being. It is not your fault that you haven't achieved what you think you want to achieve. It's not your fault that you keep running into these self-imposed roadblocks, that you have this big fear come up, that you have these stories of inadequacy and unworthiness. This is part of the human experience in this time and space reality. For whatever reason, we're all born to have our authenticity squashed. And the journey is to reclaim that authenticity by peeling away everything that is not you. That is the holy work, my beautiful friend. That is the holy work. Since this download of Soulmatic Renewal, I have taken hundreds of students through this process. It has changed countless lives. And it can be so subtle. You know, the process itself is not difficult. It can be intense in the moment, but it passes really quickly because you're really letting yourself have it. You're really letting yourself feel those feelings and move through it so you are free of that. And that opens up a space for new experiences. We can't have new experiences while our body is hanging on to old experiences. There's only so much room in this vessel. We are meant to have the full spectrum of the human experience. And when we have the full spectrum of the human experience, then we have all the experience that we are meant to have, that we are born to have. Your desires are not random, my beautiful friend. They are not random. You are supposed to experience that. And you experience that by experiencing every moment as it is. So once you go through the process of clearing away the stuck energy, then every new experience comes in. You know how to be fully with it, good, bad, or whatever. You get to be fully with that experience. And that deepens, enriches your life, and creates the building blocks for your authentic expression, for your highest expression, for your role as a leader, a spiritual leader, for your role in your passionate expression. I am passionate about self actualization. I am passionate about spirituality. I'm passionate about growth. And so, therefore, I am passionate about soulmatic renewal because I have found nothing else that gleans the same kind of results that soulmatic renewal does. Now, soulmatic renewal is simple. It is, my friend, it is simple, but it's also difficult because it requires commitment and it requires consistency. And the best thing is to have a guide, especially for the really sticky moments, a witness, someone to guide you through this process. I want to give that to you through my Soulmatic Renewal Masterclass. Let me be your guide. Let me give you all the tools that you need to put this into practice consistently, just a few minutes a day, every day. You're going to have massive changes in your life as a result of it. It's just $27. And I give you all of my secrets for Soulmatic Renewal, everything that I've taken my clients through over the years in a one-on-one capacity and in small group containers. This shit works and more people need access to it. If you're committed and you do this work, you're going to see radical shifts happen in your life. You're going to find that things that triggered you before no longer triggered you. You're going to find self-sabotaging patterns melting away with no effort on your own. You're going to find yourself less afraid, more courageous, more loving, deeper in your relationships, more compassionate, and also better boundaried because you will better be able to determine what is bullshit and what is authentic. And when you have a lot of stuck energy in the body, a lot of pain that you carry, it's really hard to determine that in your relationships. I could go on and on about the results from the soulmatic renewal process, but I want you to go experience it yourself and then come back around and tell me how it goes for you. I love you.